when to do and when not to do. A warrior scholar sage perspective on discernment, discipline, and rest. Modern culture equates productivity with virtue. We are conditioned to believe that constant motion is synonymous with progress and that rest is a form of weakness. Yet across classical Eastern philosophy, martial traditions, and contemplative lineages, wisdom has never been measured by how much one does, but by knowing when to act and when not to act. This discernment lies at the heart of the warrior scholar sage archetype and is expressed through the timeless triad of true, right, and correct. To live well is not merely to be busy, but to be aligned. The true path is not found through endless activity, but through refined awareness and the capacity to recognize what deserves our energy and what must be released. The warrior archetype demonstrates mastery of discipline and restraint. The warrior represents right action, not impulsive action, not reactive behavior, but action rooted in clarity, purpose, and timing. In classical martial traditions, discipline is not merely physical conditioning, but cultivated judgment. The greatest warrior is not one who fights constantly, but one who knows when not to fight. From Sun Tzu in his book of The Art of War, he reminds us that victory is achieved not by brute force, but by superior strategy and restraint. He will win who knows when to fight and when not to fight. The warrior's training develops self-command, or the ability to resist distraction, ego-driven urgency, and emotional reactivity. This mastery is reflected in the modern principle of the not-to-do list, which removes time wasters, unnecessary meetings, and low-impact obligations that drain vitality and clarity. Just as a martial artist conserves energy for decisive moments, the modern warrior must learn to say no to what is trivial in order to say yes to what is meaningful. In Taoist philosophy, this principle is expressed as Wu Wei, or effortless action through alignment rather than force. Wu Wei does not mean passivity. It means acting only when action is harmonious with circumstance. The warrior does not struggle against the current of life. He moves with it. The scholar archetype demonstrates clarity of mind and discernment of truth. The scholar represents true understanding. Before action, perception must come. Before movement, awareness must come. The scholar refines cognition, attention, and reflection, so that effort is guided by wisdom rather than compulsion. In Eastern philosophy, clarity is cultivated through stillness. The Tao Te Ching teaches, to the mind that is still, the whole universe surrenders. This stillness is not emptiness, but receptivity. It is the mental discipline that allows one to distinguish signal from noise, value from distraction, essence from excess. The scholar understands that perpetual stimulation fragments attention and erodes creativity. Neuroscience now confirms that insight, problem solving, and emotional regulation depend upon cycles of focused engagement and deliberate rest. Modern productivity research echoes ancient wisdom. Deep work requires boundaries. Without reflection, we confuse urgency with importance. Without rest, we confuse movement with meaning. The scholar, therefore, cultivates the discipline of reflection, journaling, meditation, and contemplative study practices that refine perception and illuminate what is true. The sage archetype demonstrates alignment with natural law. The sage embodies what is correct, not merely in a moral sense, but in accordance with natural rhythm and universal order. The sage recognizes that life unfolds in cycles: effort and restoration, engagement and withdrawal, expansion and contraction. Traditional Chinese philosophy expresses this through the doctrine of yin and yang, complementary forces in perpetual transformation. Activity without rest becomes exhaustion. Rest without purpose becomes stagnation. Health, creativity, and wisdom arise from dynamic balance. The sage understands that overextension leads to collapse, and that excessive control produces resistance. In Buddhism, this is reflected in the middle way, the path between indulgence and deprivation. In Confucian ethics, it is expressed through lie or proper conduct arising from situational appropriateness rather than rigid rules. To the sage, knowing when not to act is as powerful as knowing when to act. Stillness is not absence. Silence is not emptiness. Withdrawal is not retreating. These are strategic expressions of wisdom. The integrated path is seen from living through the true, right and correct perspectives. When the warrior, scholar, and sage are integrated, life becomes a practice of intelligent engagement. The individual learns to act with discipline as the warrior seeks what is right, perceive with clarity as the scholar seeks truth, and align with natural law as the sage seeks correctness. This triadic harmony produces a life of purposeful effort rather than frantic striving. It teaches us to push forward when the moment calls for courage and endurance, and to withdraw when reflection, restoration, or recalibration is required. The ancient sages understood what modern neuroscience now confirms. Burnout is not a failure of character, but a failure of rhythm. Creativity does not arise from constant stimulation, but from alternating cycles of tension and release. Wisdom does not emerge from accumulation, but from discernment. To live well is not to do more. It is to do what matters and to release what does not. The highest form of productivity is not busyness, it is alignment. The highest form of discipline is not force, it is restraint. And the highest form of wisdom is knowing with clarity and courage and when to do and when not to do.